Another underwhelming week in Giants baseball. Are we doomed? Or should fans stay hopeful? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Buster and the Giants. I'm your host, Jonah Johnson, a freelance video producer and editor, and a die-hard San Francisco Giants fan. In today's episode, we'll be looking back on what happened in Giants baseball this past week, recapping the Phillies and Orioles series, talking about the lowlights and the highlights from the last week, as well as looking ahead to the rest of the road trip in which the Giants faced the Cincinnati Reds and the Washington Nationals before returning home to face the Dodgers. First, let's look at the final scores of the games between the Phillies and the Orioles. They started the week off on a bad note, losing to the Phillies 4-6. However, in the next two games, the Giants would go on to win 6-0 and then 5-0. They start off the road trip on a high note, winning the first game on Friday 6-3, but ultimately dropped the next two games 2-6. Altogether, the Giants racked up 62 hits this past week, giving them an average of 10 hits per game. They started the week off 3-7 overall, and now they end the week 6-10. It's frustrating to end the week the way that they did, especially when a lot of Giants fans feel like they should have walked out of Baltimore with a series win. Now, let's get into some lowlights from this past week. To me, one of their biggest issues that they face as a team is hitting with runners in scoring position. In the Philly series, they were 10 for 33 with runners in scoring position. In the Orioles series, they were 6 for 28. Also, one of our best power bats in Rafael Devers was 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position on the week. Maybe it's kind of obvious, but the Giants need to knock in those runners. Right now, the offense is not anywhere near what we expected it to be. And with how our pitching staff has looked as a whole, our offense needs to pick it up. Another low light I want to quickly touch on from this last week is Harrison Bader. Now, I don't want to be too negative. We're only 16 games into the regular season, but his offensive production is making me feel a little wary. In 52 at-bats, Bader has totaled 6 hits, giving him a batting average of 115. He has also struck out 17 times, giving him a strikeout percentage of 33%. Look, his defense is immensely valuable to this Giants team, especially for an outfield that was really bad last year. I value his defense just as much as anyone else, but if his bat keeps producing at the way that it is right now, it might be time to bring in someone else to take that spot. Maybe one of the guys from AAA, like Victor Barracoto, maybe Drew Gilbert, or even one of the guys that's currently on the roster, like Jared Oliva. Let's move on from all the negativity and now look at the highlights from this past week, starting with Casey Schmitt. Casey has been hitting the Schmitt out of the ball. He has a .368 batting average, a .429 on-base percentage, and a .576 slug throughout this season. He is currently on a 5-game hitting streak, and this past week, he hit 11 for 19 with 4 doubles and a home run. He started off his career as a third baseman, played a little bit of shortstop as he came up into the majors. He played second base last year, but we signed Luis Arias in the offseason to be our primary second baseman. Casey can also play some first base, which we saw earlier on in this season, but I'm starting to wonder, can he play outfield? I believe it was FP Santangelo Jr. I heard talking about this, but Schmitt is pretty fast. He has a stolen base on the year, I know that. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to put him in right field, especially with the way Jung-Hoo Lee is hitting. Obviously, he'll need some reps. We don't want to just throw him out there and expect him to give us gold glove defense in right field, but it's worth a shot. One more player I want to quickly highlight is reliever Matt Gage. In 4 appearances this past week, Gage only allowed 1 run on 2 hits and 4 strikeouts, and that 1 earned run came in the last game of the Orioles series on Sunday. Right now, Gage looks like our most reliable left-handed reliever out of the bullpen, besides maybe Eric Miller, but even he's had his troubles this year. One more thing I want to talk about before we look ahead to what's to come this week in Giants baseball is prospect Bryce Eldridge, who's tearing it up at AAA. I talked about him briefly last week, but as the season goes on, he just keeps looking better and better. In 50 at-bats this season, Eldridge has a .360 batting average, a .492 on-base percentage, and a .520 slug. Now, I don't want to jump the gun too soon. He is only 21 years old, so let's not expect him to put up these kind of numbers once he makes it to the majors, but I'm loving what I'm seeing from him so far in AAA, and I would love to see him hitting at DH for this Giants lineup. The road trip continues as the Giants head to Cincinnati for a 3-game set against the Reds. On the bump on Tuesday, it'll be Robbie Ray versus Brady Singer. On Wednesday, it'll be Tyler Mahle versus Rhett Lauder. And to close off the series on Thursday, it'll be Landon Roop versus Chase Burns. It's a hitter-friendly environment at Great American Small Park, so hopefully the Giants bats can put it together, especially against some arms that they've had success against in the past. After the series wraps up in Cincinnati, the Giants will get on a flight to head to DC to face the Nationals for a 3-game set before returning home to face the Dodgers. Anyways, that's all I have for today's video. What did you think of the Giants this past week? Any changes you'd make to the lineup? Let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It'd be very much appreciated. Be fair, be kind, and as always, go Giants. I'll see you next week.